Of course, of course. Floyd House Flicks. Welcome to another installment of Blacks in Cinema Sunday. Today's feature conversation. Blacks in Cinema Sunday. Let me say this first. Blacks in Cinema Sunday is a conversation about black cinema and the effects it had in black culture and the black experience, if you will. Please like, share, and subscribe. All of what we're doing at Floyd House Flicks, I appreciate it. You already know what it is. Floyd House Flicks is in the building. Let's have a conversation about today's feature. Cleopatra Jones, 1973. This film had, it's like such a, I'm gonna get this out of here first. Yes, sir. It's a film that came out in 1973 starring uh, Tamara Dobson, Bernie Casey, Shelley Winters. I forgot Shelley Winters was in this movie. Um, and the always necessary Antonio Fargas. He plays characters like Huggy Bear and on Starsky and Hutch and things like that. These are characters that are pretty much fixtures in black cinema in the 70s. And I mean, it just wouldn't be the same without them. So when you see them in films like this, you just got it. You gotta love it. Cleopatra Jones. Let me give you a synopsis of the film. Cleopatra Jones is an undercover special agent for the United States government. Overseas modeling is only her cover for her real job. So she's a model, but she's actually working for the government. Uh, Cleo is a James Bond like heroine with power and influence. She drives a silver and black 1973 Corvette Stingray. She was killing this car. I mean, like every time she got out the car, the roof went up and came down. The car is incredible, but she was. I mean, there's a car chase in the movie where she was just digging this car into the ground. It was a great scene. Um, it says Cleo was overseeing the destruction of a poppy field in Turkey belonging to the evil drug lord Mommy. Mommy is played by Shelley Winters. It's so weird. It's like the reverse characters. It's like usually when you see movies like this, it's a male driven type of film, but in this case, the antagonist is a woman who wears wigs. She's always changing her wigs. Shelley Winters, named Mommy. Everybody looked at her and they called her Mommy. So she was the boss lady, and it was it's an interesting take on the you see where the effects of the feminist movement comes in. Um, Women, and especially women of color, when you had films like, in this case, women of color, I won't say especially, but in this case, women of color, when you see films like Shaft and Mac and Dolomite. And by the way, this film was written by Max Julian, who is actually the Mac in the movie The Mac. He's Goldie in The Mac. If you've never seen The Mac, go check that. I think that's going to be coming up in Blacks in Cinema Sunday soon enough. But Max Julian did this film, and there was so much action in just regard. It's always this cool thing, and Tamara Dobson is just, she didn't have too many. She's a woman of very few words, so she just comes in, kicks you down, and does whatever she does. Um, Again, let me go back into the synopsis. A Turkish poppy field is torched, and a U.S. drug trafficker known as Mommy is feeling pretty burned. She phones the local cops she phones the local cops she owns and orders a retaliatory strike on an inner city anti-drug headquarters. Mommy's next call should be to 911. For now, she'll have to deal with Cleopatra Jones. It's very dramatic, but it's very dramatic. So yeah, Bernie Casey runs a clean house, where a clean house in the sense that people that are trying to get off heroin, because this is in the early 70s, and we know how prevalent heroin was throughout the United States and elsewhere as well. But throughout the United States, heroin is a very, very, very heavy thing they were dealing with. So anybody that wanted to get clean, he would take them in and help them to detox and then get them through their withdrawal symptoms and things like that. So mommy decided to go bust up the tryout center, and she was really upset, as in the synopsis says, she's upset because Cleopatra Jones went all the way to Turkey and burned her poppy fields. So now she knows that Cleopatra Jones and the Bernie Casey character are linked. She's going to tear up his spot. So they go and they plant drugs on one of the former patients of the center, and things ensue from there. Um, it's really interesting to see the different dynamic of a female in the position that's normally held by a male. It's interesting to see the respect that everyone gives her. The men, the women, everyone gives her a certain respect. Esther Roll was in this film, and she plays a restaurant owner whose sons happen to be karate experts. In the 70s, a lot of these films had a lot of kung fu and karate, and that always adds to the funniness, if I could say that, of these films. You always see, you get a lot of sound effects and a lot of kicking and punching and stuff like that. So it was an interesting look at the tropes of cinema in its current time at that time in 1973. Everything was car chases, shootouts, and kung fu. That's all you need for a great movie. That's all you need. It says, Mommy is relentless in her vendetta, but Cleopatra responds with cat like karate stealth. It says, Bong So Hong, technical advisor on Billy Jack. He supervised the karate. One of the karate supervisors on Billy Jack was the supervisor on this film as well. Doodlebug. His name's Doodlebug. The Antonio Fargas played a character named Doodlebug who worked for Mommy, and Mommy found out, or Doodlebug went to Mommy and told Mommy he wanted to branch out on his own. He was going to start his own army, and of course, Mommy made short work of Doodlebug, even though he was trying to be the man. It didn't quite work out. So all of Doodlebug's people wound up getting killed. It was an interesting play, because you kind of thought that Doodlebug was going to last a little longer than he did, but not so much. So I don't want to tell too much of the movie, but I guess I have already. But you should watch this movie. It's probably one that a lot of people have not heard of. It's very much a cult classic film in black cinema, very much so. And to see Shelley Winters again playing in these roles, she's been in a few black exploitation films. Black Mama, White Mama, I think she's in that too. There's so many films that they just allow you to kind of go down a different path. And again, with feminism and things like that, black women started to feel, or at least in conversation, they wanted to see themselves empowered as well. So when you get films like Coffee, Pam Grier, you get um, Tamla Jones. I mean, I'm sorry, you get Tamara Jones. You get there were so many different people, so many different female. Tamara Dobson. I'm sorry, so many different female actors that were taking on that masculine role. It was very interesting to see how they kind of had conversation, or how they played in contrast to the male counterpart. In this particular film, Cleopatra Jones was just as bad as Shaft, and just as bad as Superfly, and just as bad as any of the others. She worked independently. Of course, she had her connection with local law enforcement, and if you know anything about these movies, there's always a mole inside of the local law enforcement, and they work against the protagonist. That's just the way it always is. So of course you have that element as well. But when I remember when in the 70s, when this movie came out, I was probably 2 years old, but I was still part of that era of the 70s where you got to see women. In my experience, you see black women taking on a more forward professional role, or more a role in an active role in society, if you will. They went out and they did what they had to do. If they You saw more female cops, you saw more female everything. It was just like a power move. It seemed like. So when these movies came out, and Pam Grier set the bar real high for a lot of cinematic expectations when it came to film like this. You had TNT Jackson, you had um, uh, Coffee, you had there's a fish. Hold on a second. I got him right here. Stand by. There's another good one that I always tend to forget about, and that is Get Christy Love. And it's so cool to see black women in these roles because they just go in, they just do everything, and it's so cool. And I can't say enough about it. I don't think it's premiered or profiled enough. I don't like the term black exploitation. I tend not to use it a lot, um, because I don't. I, hmm, it's to me, it's kind of like black exploitation sounds like something is being used, uh, and the groups that are being used are the ones that are going to be taken advantage of. And I don't think that people were taken advantage of in that respect. I think these movies were vehicles for people to see a black reflection in contrast to what was already out there. It would be like Pam Grier was the black reflection of like an Angie Dickinson or something like that, or any other. I don't know too many. I'm not strong on traditional cinema that might have the same reflection as these films had. But black female superheroes, and this is hood superheroes, and I use the term hood superheroes because in our neighborhood, being that everything was so localized, it was something to see a black woman in charge, and she had the support of her brothers. She had the support of the men that were around her. And it had nothing. It wasn't, of course, in films like this and films like this, there's always the sexual aspect of it, but the women were never like torrid and loose and things like that. They were sexy, but it wasn't about them being sexual. It was everybody wanted to do something for her, and they wanted to be in her good favors in case they needed in case they needed something from or wanted to get in. They wanted to hook up with her, so they had to be in her good favor. Someone says, "Who would you cast as Storm in the new X-Men reboot?" That is a good question, and it takes me off task a little bit, but Triber, I appreciate that. Who would I cast? You know, who I think would be interesting. I would have to get her name. What is her name? Michaela Cole. Michaela Cole. Michaela Cole was in Wakanda Forever. She had her shows on Netflix. I May Destroy You and like chewing gum and things like that. Michaela Cole is someone who I think is extremely talented, and could definitely play a lead role like Storm. I think that she's an incredible actor. She's quite versatile, and she has a look. I think the look that she has would definitely assist in making a role like Storm truly come to life, because they get people, these little light skinned girls, to play Storm, and Storm was an African woman. So the Halle Berrys and the little light skinned girl that they have in the newer movies, I'm like, yeah, nah, that's not it for me. Um, I don't see her not playing the role of Storm. I think it's going to be. I think she's on a good trajectory, because she's been in Star Wars. She didn't have much of a role. She's just like, "We're on our way, Captain." That was it. That's the only line in that movie. But I think that her role and her roles are coming in, and she's getting more dialogue in major films. So I think that she deserves it, and I would like to see her play Storm. She's still young enough to pull it. So but yeah, Cleopatra Jones, TNT Jackson, Foxy Brown, Coffee. There are so many. I mean, there's a myriad of black women films, and I know that I'm forgetting some. I'm forgetting a bunch, but it's these roles that people look at, and it was like, these women are like, they she's a complicated woman, but no one understands her but her man, T.D. Jackson. They have that sort of impact in terms of their presence. They emanate this control, and they exude this sensuality, but at the same time they're making sure that they do what they need to do, and they do it completely. The fight scene in the toward the close of the movie with Tamara Dobson and Shelley Winters, to me, was hilarious, because Shelley Winters is just swinging wildly, and Tamara Dobson is very technical and tactical, and with the kicks and everything like that. It was funny to me. I didn't want it to make it seem like I'm laughing at her, because she said to Shelley Winters, they were going to put them in a situation where they were going to die, and her and another young lady, and Shelley Winters said, Um, what, Cleopatra Jones? No begging, no crying. And she looked at her and says, "No way, fatso." I mean, that's classic. Call somebody fatso. I mean, Shelley Winters was like, "Mm." So the fight scene was funny. And of course, she wins. Cleopatra Jones wins, and then they move forward, and she and Bernie Casey have their obligatory sex scene. This was earlier on in the movies. And yeah, Shelley Winters was up in age at the time, but she was ready for it. Shelley Winters, in that particular time period, was in so many films, and she was one of the few bigger names that would actually be in those types of films, and it was nice to see. So salute to Shelley Winters. I've never heard anything bad about Shelley Winters. There's always been something. She was very. I heard she was a very nice lady. Just from in conversation, this is like having conversations with older people talking about black cinema. Those are the types of things that we would hear. So yeah, Cleopatra Jones. I'm reaching for it. I moved it. Oh, Cleopatra Jones. If you've never seen Cleopatra Jones, check it out. Notice the snapper case, Cleopatra Jones. And you also should notice, gradually, we're starting to get more black cinema on Blu-ray and 4K. I mean, a lot of these movies, these are DVDs. Um, there's a movie called, it's a Harry Bell. Matter of fact, have you guys seen the Netflix special Is That Black Enough for You? You have to watch Is That Black Enough for You? It's done by Elvis Mitchell. He narrates it. It's an amazing piece of work, and it goes so thoroughly. He goes so deeply into black cinema, and you really need to check it out. It speaks to a lot of issues and concerns that a lot of people had with black cinema in the '70s and before that, and the portrayal of of black people in cinema, where it goes through, the whole slip and slides and the bug eyed and big and the black face. It talks about all of those things and why a lot of people have the relationship with black cinema um, that they have, and why something would come out and be called black exploitation. When you speak of black exploitation, and notice I haven't used the word that often, but when you want to see black exploitation, you watch films uh, in the 30s and 40s where they had white men dressed up in blackface. They call it a vaudeville and whatever they call it. Where I mean, that's black exploitation. That is those are when you see people dressed up like tribesmen in African tribes, but it's really just white guys with blackface. Or you'll see a cartoon where the maid is just she's talking in a certain way where it just sounds very uneducated and very much so just making fun of black people. That is black exploitation to me. um the cartoons with the big lips and the Sambo character and all types of things such as that's black exploitation. So when they came up with the concept of black exploitation, I knew what they were saying, but I didn't feel exploited because these are the things that you get to see every day if you grew up in a black neighborhood, if you grew up with black friends. Um, these are normal things. There's no exploitation in it. This is what it was, and white folks found a way to make money off of it, but the black folks made money off of it too. So I don't know if it was exploitive or not, but again, that's my take on what I think a black exploitation film is. So with that said, please watch Is That Black Enough for You? As soon as you get a chance, watch that, and then comment on this video regarding your experience after watching it. Feel free to hit me up on IG, comment there, whatever you want to do. Send me a message. I'm with it, and we can have a dialogue about that. But watch that. It definitely will give you some serious insight in terms of black cinema. If you get a chance, please make it your business. Watch Cleopatra Jones. It's an experience. If you get a chance, please watch TNT Jackson or Get Christy Love, things like that. Do yourself a favor. Have these conversations. Don't worry about anything that you feel that might be uncomfortable. You can have a conversation about black cinema. You can have a conversation about a black experience that you may be observed. I want more people to be part of this blacks in cinema conversation. Please do. Please do. So again, we're going to close this out. Blacks in Cinema Sunday. Thank you for joining us. We're going to do Physical Media Commute tomorrow. I think that's going to be Physical Media Commute number 10. Nope, number 11, because there was none on Friday. Physical Media Commute number 11 on Monday. I think that's it. But thank you so very much for riding with me. And always, as always, thank you very much for your support. And we'll be back next Sunday. If the crop don't fail and the creek don't rise, we'll be here. What are we going to show? I don't know. But when I do, you'll be the first to find out. So I'll see you then. I will talk to you on Monday. You guys be safe. Salute. One love. Blacks in Cinema Sunday. Floyd House Flicks. Peace.